SpiderMan Far From Home was pretty mediocre movie. Almost boring, actually. Hey movie watchers, welcome to today's review of Spider-Man Far From Home. If you're new to this channel, I give a synopsis, then I talk about my likes and my dislikes, then the breakdown where I give my individual scores of the writing, the acting, the cinematography, and the directing. All my reviews do have some spoilers in them, so you have been warned. Channel update, we are officially the Movie Watcher Club. No more Moon movie review. We are the Movie Watcher Club from this point forward. Okay, movie watchers, let's review. So the movie starts out with a very comical tribute at Peter Parker's school to the fallen Avengers and a brief but funny telling of basically how the 5-year blip that happened, how it kind of affected that community, or at least that school. Then we find out that Peter's science class is going on a school field trip to, I believe, Italy. And Peter has big plans to confess how he feels to his new love interest, MJ. But then a water golem shows up out of nowhere, and Mr. Beck, aka Mysterio, shows up and saves the day. It appears Mr. Beck, or Mysterio, is working with the Avengers, and they enlist Peter's help with the elementals that are here to destroy the planet or something. And together, Mysterio and Spider-Man defeat the final elemental, or so it would appear. As it turns out, it's all just a gimmick. Mysterio is not really a superhero at all. He uses drones and holographic technology to convince people that he is a superhero. And once he has convinced Peter of his heroicness, Peter basically passes the mantle onto Mysterio and some almighty grade A technology that Tony had originally left to Peter. But this was actually Mysterio's plan the whole time. Put on a show, convince Peter that he should really be the one to take up the mantle, so that Peter gives him this technology. But Peter finds all this out after MJ picks up a piece of one of the drones and shows it to Peter. Then Mysterio sets up a fake-ish, kind of, Avenger-level threat so that he could be seen as stepping in as the hero and basically saving the world, thus proving his heroicness, and everyone would accept him as kind of the new hero taking the place of the Avengers. But now Peter is on to him, and Peter kind of chases after him. Peter engages with Mysterio, and Peter loses his first battle and actually almost dies. Then he recovers, he builds himself a new Spider-Man suit, then faces off against Mysterio again in the final battle, and of course, long story short, he wins. But Mysterio had a few tricks up his sleeves, one of those being naming Spider-Man as Peter Parker, and that's how the movie ends. So starting with my likes, like number one of my favorite things about the movie is the comedy. I really enjoyed the first movie, Spider-Man Homecoming. I enjoyed it a lot. I thought the movie was done very well. I laughed throughout the entire movie. I absolutely loved it. They also kept the same kind of humor here in Spider-Man Far From Home. And I like that. I like dry, quirky, and that witty kind of humor. This movie does a fairly good job of staying consistent with that type of humor, and I like that. I don't think it was funnier than the first one, but I do think it was funny, and I did laugh quite a bit in the movie. Like number two, the animation, the graphics, the cinematography, everything looked really good in this movie, as good as expected. I was quite impressed with how it all looked actually, from the buildings falling to things blowing up to even the massive drone army and all the drone stuff that was going on. It all looked pretty darn good to me. There was even some few scenes we got where it was like the camera was actually mounted to one of those drones, and as they were chasing, I think they were trying to kill Spider-Man in that scene, but as they were chasing Spider-Man around, the camera was actually on top of the drone, and it looked really awesome. And that is grade A cinematography right there. Like number three, and my favorite about the movie was actually Peter's internal struggle with being a teenager and a high school kid and He really just wants to enjoy his summer. He wants to enjoy the company of a girl that he likes and his friends. And he wants to set aside the superhero stuff, the superhero lifestyle, just for now. And Peter is really struggling with rising to the challenge of being a superhero. And I really like this because I think it's honest and I think it's real. A teenager in high school could not really comprehend the things that he would have to sacrifice in order to be a superhero. And I think he ultimately realizes this. I think he realizes that he is just a kid and he just wants to be a kid for a little while before he misses out on what it's like to be a kid. He realizes in this movie that if he's going to be a superhero, he's going to have to make a lot of sacrifices. And he has to come to terms with those sacrifices and try to live his life at the same time. And I think this is the most compelling part of this entire movie. Moving on to my dislikes, this is just a mediocre movie. And after the movie was over, it really actually seems like the movie was kind of boring. And here's why. Dislike number 1. It seems like Peter Parker absolutely needs a love interest in all of his movies. And I'm not really sure why. And I think this movie actually does a really bad job of making this love story in the movie compelling in any kind of way. I mean, when the movie starts, Peter is just already head over heels for this girl. There's no build up or setup to their relationship or to how they like or became to like one another. And in the first movie, he's really obsessed and really likes Liz. And she moves away in that movie, which is fine, I guess. But it seems like the filmmakers were just like, next! And on top of that, the way they write, they try to tell an awkward love story. They try to make it seem awkward and relatable, and it feels really forced, and it actually ends up being kind of boring, I think. They went for the awkward feel because that's like the nerdy way of telling a love story, but the awkwardness in this movie feels more like it was created. It didn't feel like it was a natural awkwardness, so the awkwardness doesn't really feel like it's really awkward, and it just winds up being kind of boring instead of anything actually interesting. Dislike number 2, you basically find out halfway through the movie that this world-threatening elemental force isn't world-threatening or even an elemental force. It's just complete hogwash. It's fake. It's just a drone army with holographic technology and military-grade weapons. Which, don't get me wrong, that is actually a really cool that is a really cool idea. I really like that idea. But they should have set that idea up in some way, rather than pretending that there is this evil force out there that's coming to Earth, trying to destroy Earth, and then you have this interdimensional superhero that's coming from another dimension to help save our Earth, because his Earth was ultimately destroyed by this same elemental force. And then you just go, ha 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 ha, fooled ya. I'm just gonna try to trick everyone into believing that I'm an actual superhero. And it's just kind of a letdown. Him just being a fake, phony superhero is honestly just a letdown. And it just really lowered the stakes in the movie for me. And I think any time in a movie, when you set something up to be this really big deal, and then it turns out to be not such a big deal, it just makes the story feel a lot less important and a lot less impactful. And they also don't really explain why Mysterio wants to be a fake superhero in the first place. They do give us his motivation, basically being mistreated by Tony, but they don't explain what his end goal is. So let's say that his plan works. He convinces the world he's an awesome superhero, and he kills Nick Fury and keeps the Edith eyeglasses for himself, and all of his plans go according to plan. Everything he tries to do goes according to plan. Now what? I mean, is he trying to take over the world? Is he trying to be the leader of the new superheroes? I don't actually know why he wants to convince everyone that he's a superhero. Because once a real threat actually shows up, what is he gonna do? He's gonna disappear. He won't be there to fight, so I don't understand any of this. And I don't really know what to say about it other than I think that it's a little dumb. Dislike number 3. This movie really does absolutely nothing for the MCU. The movie basically ends at exactly the same position that it started from. The only things that are really any different is Peter now has a girlfriend. and he's sort of ready to embrace being Spider-Man, and his identity is out. That's basically all the effect that this movie has on the Marvel Cinematic Universe. The plot, the story, the events of this movie don't push the overall story arc of the MCU in any direction at any point in time. So it seems like all this stuff that's happening and really nothing is actually happening. So like I said, just a mediocre movie. Movie watcher question. So I want to know, do you think this is a good addition to the MCU? Do you think this is a good addition to Spider-Man's story? Okay, movie watchers, here's the breakdown. I'm giving the writing a 5 out of 10. I do believe the writing was pretty rudimentary. I didn't find it very compelling. The only part that I actually found interesting was the fact that Mysterio was faking everything and he was using holographic drones. I found everything else to be quite boring. The acting is getting a 7 out of 10. There is some good acting in the movie, but really most of it was just kind of regular, normal, not good, not bad, just fine. There's really just nothing special to say about anything here. The cinematography is getting a 7 out of 10. The graphics do look really good here, but they could have done a lot more with the camera angles. Spider-Man movies always give them opportunities to really excel in the cinematography department, and they just didn't really do a whole lot of that here. I am giving the directing a 5 out of 10. Directors are responsible for the final product of the movie. The final product, that is the movie, is always very telling of their overall efforts and decisions and things that they've made, their overall involvement, and overall how good they are as directors. And the movie was just mediocre, so that unfortunately falls on the director. So overall, Spider-Man Far From Home gets a 6 out of 10 from me. It's not going to be anyone's favorite movie, at least I don't think it should be, but it's not necessarily a bad movie either. Thank you for watching. I've got more reviews and discussions coming your way, so check back soon for those, and I'll see you on the next one.